I love the Ozarker album. It's maybe because it's a bit different from the other albums like Topaz. It's more, I think, more song driven, more um,
Yeah.
on point. Yeah,
Yes.
not that I didn't enjoy the psychedelic aspects of the last albums, but I love the heartland rock core of Ozarker. And let's start with that. Under the influence, what are your influences while writing this? And I think it has a lot to do with Ozark and where you came from, in
Mhm.
particular. Let's start with that.
Yeah. No, I think that you're right on that. Like the Heartland thing. Is that a place, or is that just like it's straight to the heart? It's just like like I love. I think that's what I love about making records is like making different records, and
Hmm.
Topaz has a vibe that it's its own, and all it lifted, rain plans, it's like I just think that as an artist and as a songwriter, as I continue to write, it's like it's less about trying to conform to one style. It's not just cool. I'm just a folky, psychedelic sort of Americana sort of rock guy. That's all I do. No, I mean
That's a
it's like I'm a
lot.
songwriter. I want to write stuff. So this was fun to work on this record and just kind of have these songs that were more, vocals are louder. I want the lyrics to be maybe less poetic and more direct to the ears and to the heart. Because I think it's a cool way to get people involved and people to feel attached to it. Choruses that you can kind of sing along to, and the power of that is people knowing the chorus and not only singing along to it live, which is awesome, which is amazing when you hear a crowd of people singing a chorus to your song because it's louder than you are. But when people can sing it, they feel connected to it. When they know the stories behind it, they connect their stories. So that's kind of was what I was wanting to do with this record, was to be able to make a rock record that I don't want to say accessible, but I like to what you said, a straight line. Come on, get on board. We're going straight there.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it started with me. So I wanted to make that kind of record, and it started. All these records kind of start with what I call like these album seeds, where there are just these little things kind of in my brain where I'm like, thinking about that. And if I think about it multiple times, it's time to kind of address it. And I had a couple seeds kind of going on, and it was, one of it was I miss Tom Petty. I was like, man, I just really
Hmm.
miss Tom. And as I get older and our heroes pass away, it's like some of them just, Tom Petty and George Harrison have just like, ah, man, I just think about the loss and the gift they gave to music and as songwriters gave to me. And because no one ever says, I've never heard anyone in my whole life going all over around the world that ever said, I don't really like Tom Petty.
I totally agree.
You know, people, I would expect that with anyone,
Yeah.
but like Tom Petty, it's almost like, Tom, it's like smile, it's like, I just think about that, and I was
Yeah.
just saw some Twitter. I was on Twitter just yesterday and like scrolling through some stuff, and it was just like a 2 minute, 1 minute clip of him talking about writing the waiting, um, and he just always kind of cool, just giving a everyman approach, just approachable guy. Real had a had a sense of, especially in his interviews, of that just how simple it all is, But I was kind of thinking about him, and when I decide to make these records, I start to kind of do some research and put some music up around me. So, I had a lot of Tom Petty and had a lot of Springsteen, and Seeger and um,
You
stuff
can't
I've
you
always
can't
listened
you
to.
can't go wrong with these guys, I've
No,
seen
you really can't.
I've seen so many Springsteen concerts, and every time he comes around, I try to see him.
Yeah.
Like this year, and it's always like going to church in a very positive
Oh,
way.
yeah.
It's always like I've only seen Paddy once in 2012, and it was one of the best sounding concerts I've ever been to. Not to mess with the three
Yeah.
hours concert of Springsteen. I totally agree on what you say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just when you kind of listen to those music, it's tough because guys like us, I love, for what it's worth, I love rock and roll. Like I love. I was introduced to that music by my father, and his love for late '60s and '70s rock and roll, and it's always been a part of my life and being a part of that. And I think that period of music from the '80s, the '80s they were finding their ways with technology and bringing it in and making a change that hadn't been going since '50s, '60s, '70s. These studios looked a lot different than they looked in the '80s with more digital stuff. And but I still think some of those records just hold up so well. Some of those mid '80s records with Tom and Bruce, Born in the USA, Torpedoes, like stuff that just holds up. Where it just sounds like, man, that sounds like rock and roll from any of the last 30 years or something. It's just, here it is, songs that get to you, people can relate to these songs, and it creates a spirit. And these are some of the powerful things I think about rock and roll, is just the spirit that it made, and the ethos of people being able, across money and stripes of jobs. And that's why it's cool about Heartland, is it's a thought of the everyman, and the thought that really all of us are everyman. Like, even if you might be you know a journalist, and I might be an artistic, songwriter who knows so many things, but we're all just these every people. These jobs that we have were everyman jobs. They weren't, they've only become of celebrity status or something in the last 30 or 40 years. But I kind of think it harkens back to those ideas of like Woody Guthrie and like singing for the people, because they were the people. So yeah, I think that I listened to a lot of that music. I pumped it. When you start listening to that music, it just gets in your bones, man. It just
Oh
seeps
yeah.
in.
Oh yeah.
You
Oh
know
yeah. Oh
this,
yeah. Yeah.
because then you just pick up a guitar and you're like, you listen to like Born in the USA, and then all of a sudden you're on the guitar and you're like, yeah, you're just doing all these syncopated up
Yeah.
riffs and stuff. And that's how I like to do music, where I'll just let it all kind of soak in. Some of my references, I'll have some movies, I'll have some books that I'm kind of reading, just trying to get into a space. And I knew, really, from a lot of kind of talking about Heartland, or the people, singing for the people. And I just kind of was like, man, Ozarker, that's Missouri, that's where I'm from,
Hmm.
the Ozarks of Missouri. And there's just not a better place to really kind of represent as the people, flyover country. My grandparents and my family lived out, in fields and had farmlands, and it's
That
exactly
actually
those folks.
answers my one of my questions. Would have been, what's an Ozarker for you? Because I only know, I've been to the States quite some time, but I've never been
Mhm.
to the Ozarks. I only know this crime series from Netflix. Maybe you
Yeah,
know it. It's Ozark. It's like a dark
yeah,
crime series, so where you may get a glimpse of what the countryside looks like, but that's it. But what's the Ozarker for you? Is that the motive of what you said, of the everyday man that you got to know while you were growing up there?
yeah. Really, I mean,
The
just
blueprint?
growing up in small towns. I didn't get on an airplane until I was 18 years old, or I grew up in small towns, and it's like
Hmm.
the first part of my life. We might go to St. Louis or Kansas City, which is in Missouri, which is maybe some of the biggest
Yeah.
cities. Um, but you drive to those, and it wasn't until the latter, it wasn't until I was 18, the last 20 years of my life, that I've you know been so many places, just like multiple times. And the biggest difference of that is, guess what? It's music. I mean, music gives you this vehicle to go take you around. But yeah, the Ozarks, it's just like, people might call it flyover country, and you know how it is in the States or in Germany. It's like, there are these big cities. Germany's a good example. You can just be driving down the Autobahn. There's a lot of people live out here,
Hmm.
Um, we want to go to the cities and get our entertainment, have some fun, and those are beautiful places. But so many people just live out in the land, and do things that grow food for our country or grow or other things, but it's just a different life and a different speed. So I don't think what I think is unique though is that it might be a different life, a different speed. They might have maybe they have all kinds of different cultural ideas. Maybe their religion is different. Maybe they eat a little different food there. But the beauty of rock and roll and music in general is that and art, I guess, is that art is about the human condition, and it's about the things that humans feel: hope, loss, love, fear, optimism, all these things. And it doesn't matter if you live out in the middle of the country or if you live in Berlin. It doesn't matter if you're have a great education or a farming education, if you have a lot of money or not. The human condition goes through all these feelings, So
There's a universal truth coming with that. I think I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did,
right.
yeah. I think what's pretty interesting for our readers is how did you how did the writing process develop while writing these particular songs? Lost in America, for example, is a good example for what you just described. This song reminded me a lot of a Springsteen song. Like, I guess it goes way back to I Love Thunder Road from Springsteen, where he just describes this situation. The girl is standing on the porch, and then he enrolls this whole scenario. It's not that your song is like such a big scenario, but it reminded me the mood and the sound and some of the lyrics reminded me of trying to get this kind of universal truth. So how did you sit down and write these songs? What was the environment, the situation? Did you have an acoustic guitar, or what was the setting, gear, or stuff like that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I do a lot of demoing here in the studio, like a lot of my writing and the demo process. It's like the control room's over there, and I'll just a lot of times I'll end up in the control room with like 5 guitars, like all the gear starts to slowly move into the control room when I'm writing and demoing. And I've got these dry erase boards everywhere too. So I'll just have lyrics that are just kind of pouring out, and I'll have 3 times as many lyrics for a song than I can use, but I'm always trying to really dissect the lyrics down to every little beat so it can just hit and mean something. And a lot of these songs were like anything, like you've got a little melody, you've got a couple little things, but you need the inspiration to kind of push into a song. So I started to think about some of the stories that I could remember. My mom and my dad, mostly my mom, telling me, flipping through an old photo album, kind of telling me the old story about great great grandparents, settlers that came here, just all those wild stories that you hear. So it kind of started with those, and allowed me to talk to my mom more and kind of get more depth to those stories actually. And then half of the songs I wrote, once I kind of got that stuff together, I wanted to rent a place and just kind of go have a songwriting kind of workshop and just knock out a bunch of songs. Because I had a few friends that had been doing that lately, and it's like I had this amazing studio out in the middle of the country. It's like I made this place so I didn't have to go anywhere. But then I realized, well, that's part of the magic, is traveling, going places. It spawns another direction that you can't expect. So this is kind of funny. I was like, I'm gonna rent a place. And at first I was like, I'm gonna go get a place in the Colorado Rockies, and like, oh, I found this place with no electricity. It's gonna have to like take a 4-wheeler to get there in the mountains. And I was just like, what am I doing to myself here? So I'm gonna fly out there. I'm gonna do all this stuff. So then I was just like, what I'm gonna do is I just rented a house that was 30 minutes away from my house right here, and out in Wimberley, near a river, and I just rented this house for 5 days and came out with like 5 songs that I had been kind of working on a little bit before, but they all came together there. Came out with 5 demos, and just had like a 30-minute drive back home. My girls came and visited me out there for the last night or something, but just sometimes when we just do simple things to our schedule, especially for art, it can just like help. Like this is a professional studio that's amazing, but I mean, I do so many things from here, from interviews to I was signing records and putting them in a box. Like there's just so many things that go on here.
But this is in
Sometimes it is
Texas. In
nice
Texas,
just to go.
you're based in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but you didn't write any particular material back in the Ozarks where your parents lived, did you?
No, my parents live here.
Okay. Okay.
I moved my parents down here, like 6-7 years ago, and they retired, and they live at we have like we're on like 20 acres here, so they live at the bottom, and my wife's parents they have a home on the land as well. So we got a lot of
Oh,
family here, a
cool.
lot of
Oh, that's good.
studios, house,
That's good.
compound. Yeah, it's a pretty wild place.
Okay. Because I got a bit confused by the information.
Okay.
Information sheet said that yes, you moved to a special place that you rented for quite some time, and I got confused with maybe he went
Yeah,
back
yeah.
to Missouri to the Ozarks, or did he write in Texas? Okay,
It's
now I
basically
know.
I was born and raised in Missouri, like born there, grew up there, and then I moved to New York and did the first part of my career, and then I moved to Texas, and then my parents moved here, and we've been in Texas, ever since. But it was just this idea of kind of doing a songwriting workshop, going somewhere, and kind of getting out of the studio for a few days, and kind of back to your question, because when the thing about the studio is like I have so many I have 25 guitars. I've got you know MIDI sounds and keyboard sounds for anything you could think of. Just endless things. And I'm not a guy that gets like too hung up and on all that. Like I like to keep moving forward and writing and working, but there's a lot of stuff here. And I was like, wouldn't it be nice to kind of record it more simple, like I did when I was younger, like when I was 13, 14, I had like one of those old Foztecs or the Tascam Porta Studios from the
Yeah,
90s or
I know.
something.
Yeah, I remember them.
And so I kind of got to show you. So I got this. You can still hear me here, but
Yep.
I've got this accessible. So I wanted to get I hadn't had a 4-track in a long time, so I got
Yeah,
this
I know this one.
Foztecs.
I think I recorded with this one as well back in the days.
Really, this is like from the 80s. I wanted to try to get the
But
original Tascam
these
that
things are
Bruce had for Nebraska.
yeah, but these things are great things. I mean, you got to remember
Yeah.
that like you said, like Bruce Springsteen recorded a whole album, like Nebraska demoed it,
Yeah.
and it came out as one of the maybe most important albums he ever did. So
Probably is my
yeah,
favorite of his, really. But so that's not on the record, but I wanted to get a 4-track, so I just made a really simple kind of recording setup where I had that. I had I've got somewhere under the Casio SK1, just that
keyboard.
small keyboard. It has
Hmm.
has some good 80s sounds on it. And I brought an acoustic and a bass, and
What
then I
kind of
had
acoustic guitar? What kind of model?
I just brought my J200, my Gibson
Hmm.
J200, which is in Europe right now. And I brought this thing. That you familiar with this thing? Can you see over here?
Yeah,
This funk box,
I can't not
the
see it.
Maestro. This thing is the original drum box.
No,
The
I've
drum
never seen that
machine, the
before. I only know
Maestro
the.
Rhythm.
That's crazy.
It's
I love the.
original. It even has this like pedal where you can like stop and start it. So you could
I love the
Have a
analog effects.
breakdown
I
or
love analog effects. I love all the analog effects on that you have on the album or on your albums as well. Um, so now that the songs have been demoed, what kind of instruments, string instruments and stuff like that did you choose for the final recording sessions? What was the main electric and acoustic guitar effects? Like I said, that one.
the main for me, the main acoustic is always that J200. I just love the big body J200. And I'll use like really heavy 12 gauge strings on that. It's just big.
Hmm.
But I did a ton of also for acoustic. I did a ton of Nashville tuning, and because I think that's another secret of some of those
Hmm.
80s rock records that we love is like choruses with these big 6 or 12 string guitars, which I like to use Nashville tuning on those instead. Easier to tune. You really get the same effect like in the album.
Hmm.
Just to double up the Nashville tuning 6 string high
The
string.
wide natural chorus effect. Yeah.
So that's another thing which is kind of a Heartland rock thing, but also like you're saying, it's a birdsy jangly effect. So I think I always have at the studio this Epiphone. I have an Epiphone J200 from which was which I got years before I got a J200.
Hmm.
Um, and I always keep the Nashville tuning strings. Always have a guitar with Nashville tuning strings on it. Just hearing that is just a different vibe, and it can kind of make you go. And then for
Totally.
guitar, for electric, I use two guitars mainly. I use this. I had this custom shop guitar that Fender made for me. That is. I mean, I guess I got to show you this stuff, right? I should. I mean,
Well, if you
just because you just got me like showing and telling everything over here. I'm just like, oh, you see, check out this.
well, I
But
guess
yeah, I've
what
got this.
you never do bore me with this stuff. I got a couple of
I
guitars right
know.
to the left here. What do I have? I have like, let me show you.
CS guitar guys are like, oh, let me show you this thing.
Yeah, yeah, this is a beautiful, simple
Oh
guitar.
yeah.
It's a double cuts from Tokai,
Oh,
and
that's nice.
they made in Japan. And they make great guitars. It's one of my main life weapons, so to speak.
Japan is just killing it with guitar.
They're just, I mean, the Gretches from Japan, man. The Gretches from Japan is just awesome guitars. And I
Yep.
got this beautiful, let me show you. I got this one here. It's a Casino from
Oh,
Gary
there
Clark
you
Gary Clark Jr. with a Bixby. It's a bitch to tune, but hey,
go. Yeah,
P90s
that's awesome.
all over.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've got, my main guitars are the Gretsch White Falcon for live. Um,
Those are the big
and
guns.
I got two of those. And I was in Europe, just in this summer, and I actually left a bunch of guitars in Europe because we've been kind of building up our amps and kind of our gear stuff. And I finally was just like, okay, because I have two White Falcons and I have my Country Gentleman. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave one of these White Falcons here, my J200. But for the album, for the using in the studio, I was saying that I got my Fender made me this custom shop Strat that looks like the White Falcon that has the gold inlay on the
Wow.
white.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it
So I use
hollow?
that. No,
Okay, solid
it's
body.
just
Okay.
just it's
Yeah.
just a good old American Strat that just looks kind of like a White Falcon. Has gold hardware and
Could you send a
um,
picture of that as well?
I will, yeah. Um,
Awesome.
and then I use that, and then I just use I'll buy some guitars from Fender, where I'll just get I just bought like a new like an American Sunburst Strat that I just used for the recording, and then I gave it to my pedal steel player Eric. Um, it's fun to give guitars to your friends, I think.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just had these Strats, and then I would just run it through. You know, I did a lot of like just kind of light chorus and compression on the electric stuff. Not a ton, but just kind of that's always a fun. and some delay on that. Just that was like a fun kind of '80s guitar sound that kind of went everywhere. But it's like, oh, well, look what we could do with the delay, you know, and a chorus pedal. So yeah, I always
And
had just like a
amp-wise, what was the main amplification to all of this?
my main amp for that was my Fender Bassman.
Okay.
A lot of times I'll switch around too. I mean, there's some tracks where I'll use a smaller amp. But what we kind of generally do is because we did drums live in the room for the record, behind me. So then we used the drum room where it was just a pretty massive amp room. So it was kind of just like, oh, let's try this one, But a lot of times I love just using the Bassman because it sounds right to me immediately. Always love. I mean, I have to have it for the live stage. I can't have anything else. And then in the studio, I can play around with a ton of stuff. I've got some like a deluxe. I've got some single channel stuff. My guitar player, my pedal steel player Eric Swanson, who's been with me for years. He makes amps, so I have a couple of his amp designs too.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah. I should send you that too.
That'd be
He
awesome.
makes amps, and then he also he works with this company in Colorado, just he and the owner, and it's called Hendrickson Amps, and it's really popular with jazz players. They have like their main amp is this thing called the Bud, which is super small. It does Bluetooth. It has a reverb channel. It has like XLR. It's really really cool.
Crazy.
Um, but yeah, his love is analog and like building amps. And he does a lot of amp repair for Denver. But yeah, I'll send you some of that stuff. So yeah, we'll just have an amp room where it's just like, oh, let's go through this one, um,
And did you use any special effects or pedals, or I may have recognized I'm a fuzz fan, though I know it's an effect that you cannot use all the time. So I may have spotted a fuzz pedal as well within the whole sound. Is that true?
um, yeah, you might. I have to ask Kurt, who my lead guitar player, um, because Kurt has a very simple pedal board, but I believe he did have that for this session. Because most of the time, Kurt is such a master of the delay pedal. Sometimes you meet people
Okay.
that can just use a delay pedal, you know, at another level. Um, like I'm the type of guy that maybe has a delay setting for each song generally, but he's the guy that's like tapping it out, you know, punching it
In
out. Then it's the
right in
craziest.
time.
Oh yeah, I just never have that much time on stage, like when singing and stuff. But he'll like get it all tapped out. Then he'll have expression and control the feedback of the pedal. It's a beautiful art. I feel like they could do interviews of just people using the delay pedal. But
Yeah.
so a lot of that guitar work there, the shredding work is Curtis, my guitar player. And then
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
there's steel, and I play some lead on there, and then Eric plays some lead. We have some duo guitar stuff, and then Eric has the steel stuff. But yeah, I'd have to ask Curtis exactly, but he always has a simple board, man. It's just like
Well,
even live, even on the stage live, it's like he's got his Mooger. He likes his Mooger delay pedal. But yeah, it's simple.
yes. It's it's the most important thing, and that it works and keep it simple.
I
And
agree,
that
man.
you have a
I
good
agree.
guitar and a good amplifier and a cable that's not broken.
Yeah. And if you got those things, you could be in our band.